Today's episode of Outside the Rack is brought to you by Kinetic Performance, the makers of the Gymaware. In today's world of strength and conditioning, data collections become the utmost of importance, and that's exactly where Gymaware separates itself from the competition. Because when we're sitting there and looking to collect data, what data are you actually collecting? And are the numbers you're looking at fitting into the exercises that you're utilizing? And even more so, are they going to answer the questions that you're looking for? Looking at different ways that you are moving the barbell through peak and mean, both velocity and power, is really what separates Gymaware from the competition. Being able to understand what your ballistic exercises are doing separate to what your strength exercises are doing really allows you to program at a much more specific level for your athletes. So hop on over to kinetic.com.au to see what Evan and his team have in store for you today. The world of strength and conditioning is filled with some fantastic practitioners that are always searching for more. But more what? What are strength and conditioning coaches searching for to better their ability to prepare their athletes? Well, what about cutting edge information? Or a place where you can find different opinions from forward-thinking coaches on what you're doing, how you're doing, and try to get feedback to be better for your athletes? Or what about a place where you'll find like-minded coaches that can provide solid coaching advice and career development for you as you progress through your career as a strength and conditioning professional? Well, this is exactly why we built the Strength Coach Network. You'll have access to exclusive monthly content on top of the sensationally active forum that we have where you can communicate with coaches all over the world to find those answers that you're looking for to help you be a better practitioner for your athletes. So make sure you hop on over to strengthcoachnetwork.com/CVASPs, that's strengthcoachnetwork.com/CVASPS, and get your 48-hour trial for only $1. I look forward to seeing you in the Strength Coach Network.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the 52nd episode of Outside the Rack, brought to you by Kinetic Performance, the makers of Gymaware. In this show, we're just going to try to dive a little deeper into the minds of the top practitioners of the world of sport performance to learn a little bit more about who they actually are and how they got to where they are today. Today, we are joined via the bubble by the assistant strength and conditioning coach for the Los Angeles Lakers, Ed Streit. Ed, thanks for being with us, brother.
Anytime, Jay. Glad to be here, brother.
Yeah, man. Glad to see you. Glad you're doing well. This is going to come out next Thursday, so you guys will already be a game or two into the playoffs. So excited to have the NBA back. The ball's been amazing. It's crazy that these teams are scoring 140 points a night almost on the regular. It's like they maybe play too many games and they're rested and they're doing well. Another talk for another day. Probably shouldn't record that and all this. But anyway, before we get going too far, man, who was Ed?
Yeah. So, again, thanks for having me, Jay. So Ed is a strength and conditioning coach with the Lakers, obviously, but going back from Chicago, born and raised on the South Side. I'm a son, brother, uncle to my little nephew who's a little hoop head. It's fun to listen to him. He knows all the mascots, all the teams, all the players. It's pretty impressive for a 5-year-old. Also a guy that just fell in love with strength training at the age of about 12. That was when I had my first gym membership. And a fortunate guy who's, had the opportunity to learn from some really, really great strength and conditioning coaches along the way, and coaches too. And, that's kind of made me who I am today.
Yeah, man. And of course, Bulls Tree is amazing, but just me personally, gonna puff my chest out, say another big time A10 guy who's doing big.
Yeah.
It's people, when I say stuff about like how awesome the coaches are in this league, I think people look at me and they're like, oh yeah, that's cute. And it's like, no, really, like there are some awesome coaches that come through this league.
Big time. Like even just being here in the bubble, in the same hotel, our rivals, our little hallway rivals, the Clippers, Daniel Shapiro was a strength coach at Dayton way back in the day. And, he's been a mentor to me since 2010. And now, we're back in LA together as rivals, but now we're staying here. We bump into each other in the hallway every day.
Yeah, man. If we're talking about guys from the A10 in the league, I got to give a shout out to my boy, Ben Kenyon. Still, to this day, the best dressed strength coach in the history of the Atlantic. He's one of the best dudes around too, man. Such a
Great dude.
man. Yeah.
Great dude. Might be seeing him at half court next week. So
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Pull up. We might actually talk about that a little bit at the end, but let's what I do think is really neat about, your career is, you a guy from Chicago who got a stint with the Bulls and then over to UConn and then the Dayton Flyers and then now out to Showtime. So you're not a guy afraid to pack it up and go. You're not a guy afraid to try a different challenge. So you've seen a lot. You work with, people can argue all you want. You work with the greatest player in the history of the game and some phenomenal players that are playing around him as well. And you've worked with some of the best players to play the game, even like that young kid when he was in Chicago. And, so this I'm actually really excited about. Could you describe for us a learning situation that brought about an epiphany in your career?
Yeah. So this is something that's happened a number of times, but it's always kind of been rooted in the same thing. So one of the most beneficial or things that has shaped who I am today, especially as a strength and conditioning coach, is just how beneficial high quality strength training can be to an athlete. And this has happened at almost every stop along the way, but it'll hit me again. It happened when I was an intern back in 2011 at DePaul, when I didn't know anything about anything. It was my first internship. I was stocking fridges and just trying to learn as much as I can. And Matt Calloway, introduced me to, my first exposure to strength and conditioning and, training athletes. It also happened when I went out to Arizona State as an intern and a graduate assistant working with Rich Wenner, who's been there 30 something years. That's one of the OGs in our field. And just, as a young strength coach, I'm trying to, do all the sexy, cool stuff, technology this, technology that. And it's just like, focus on the strength and conditioning part of it, the roots of it. That was a great learning experience under Rich out there. And then I go to Chicago where, arguably one of the best and one of the richest strength and conditioning programs in the NBA and all professional sports with, the whole Al Vermeil tree, Eric Helland, who was there. When I was there, Nick Papanik was the head strength coach, Matt Johnson was the assistant, and getting to learn from those guys and it was funny because it's the same message, strength can fix a lot of things. And, it's a very valuable thing to add to the athlete and their toolbox. And now I'm still learning it here under Chatton Hill and Gunnar Peterson, guys who, let's see, Gunner's, one of the goats in the field too. He's one of the OGs. He's been doing this for longer than I've been alive. So it's great to pick his brain here and there. And then Chatton Hill, who's, been around the NBA for 14 years, to pick his brain too. And a couple of things you pick up along the way, kind of touching on the, how beneficial strength can be, how it can impact injury reduction, obviously increase performance, how load can be corrective in manner, just get loading guys through full and safe range of motion. And also something, that might be incorporated with that is it can build character a little bit and, kind of teach guys to push through some stuff, and that they are actually, much stronger mentally and physically than they may anticipate.
I dig it, man. I do. I didn't know you were under Rich.
Yeah. I went out there. I interned for a year knowing that the GA position would open up. It was funny. I just went out there for spring break one time to hang out with friends and, shot him an email and we kind of chatted, and he was like, if you want to come out and intern, more than welcome. So I did and got to learn from him, man. He's one of the true OGs.
Oh, and just a salt of the earth, awesome human.
Amazing.
Funny side story with Rich. We played them in the NIT here a few years back. And I couldn't tell you, I don't remember what this kid's name was that they had on their squad, but this dude was a man. And I've never seen, he dunked on our guys. It was one of the worst in-game dunks I've ever seen in my life. It was one that, like, if it was on our end of the floor. Like even you, like at the end of the
Ooh.
bench, you're
Yeah.
like,
And you try not to make the reaction because it might pop up in film or on a highlight reel.
oh yeah. But like all of us, like it was one of the ones where like the walk-ons turn and they look at you and they're like,
Yeah.
like, yo,
Side eye.
see that? Like what? It was like, yeah.
Next play.
Yeah, like, come on, get back. We'll run a zone and hide you a little bit. You're okay, you know. But no, he's an amazing dude, and like all of those stops, it's really
Yeah,
crazy that it's like it just keeps popping up.
I'm fortunate, man. I've learned some from what I consider some of the best in the field.
100%, man, 100%. But as a guy, again, I mean, that's an even bigger trip, right? You know, Chicago, down, over,
Oh yeah.
all this. So you've been bouncing all over, and
It
you're
was
an
it was
equipment
funny. Rich and like what a lot of those stops were internships. So intern at DePaul, Arizona State. Obviously that turned into a graduate assistant, and then interned again with the Chicago Bulls for 2 years. That one was easy because it was home from being from Chicago. But remember, Rich even called me. He was just like, he called me the intern. He was like, "Do you ever want to make money doing this?" And it was just kind of like, like it'll come down the line. And it's yeah, just I don't know. It's been. I'm never going to pass up an opportunity to learn and grow under great strength coaches. That's something that I think is molded me to who I am. And it's been fun too, from living all the way up in the East Coast in Connecticut to South Beach now, Marina Del Rey, where I'm at. So found some stops along the way too in the desert, Chicago, Ohio. So it's been fun.
Yeah, man. But as a guy who's sitting there and willing to learn and pick people's brains and find the next answer, if you could ask one question, what would that question be and why?
Oof. Man, there's a lot, but in these times right now, one, I hate to cheat, but I'm going to give you two. But one is, the best way to cure this COVID stuff right now. That would be one, just because I think it's impacting, athletics at every level. Obviously, we're doing this from inside the bubble in Orlando, and I know you guys are just getting back to training too, and there's questions about, what's going to happen with all of collegiate athletics and professional athletics moving forward. So that would definitely be something that I would like to know, just also just for the sake of athletes and kids. Like when I was at Dayton, I got to grow really close with all those kids, and then you see they were a number one seed, at least predicted number one seed going into the tournament, and then that just gets pulled from them. It's really, really, really tough to see that happen to kids you kind of build a great relationship with, that work so hard. And it wasn't just them, it was everybody, every athlete across the nation. So it's that's definitely something I would like to know. I'm sure everybody would, just so it hopefully doesn't have too much of a negative impact on athletics, and how it's going to affect kids that could have had a shot to get a look overseas or go pro, or even just show themselves and be at school. So that's definitely one thing I'd like to know. And then just kind of outside of that, more related to performance, is just how much is too much. Especially in my setting at the NBA now, it's tough when you have practice and every practice games every other day, especially in the bubble, back to backs, travel. We're not traveling as much here, but there is still a lot of stress. So just trying to know how much is too much, or what that perfect little number is, or load.
Yeah, I think that that's kind of the magic question for all of us, right? And even if it's not how much is too much, like how much is enough. Like we call
Right.
it a cup, but I think a lot of us overfill it a lot.
Where's the sweet spot?
No doubt. No doubt. But listen, man, as a guy on the road, literally right now living on the road, and I'm sure this is a unique question for the present moment. But when Ed's back on the left coast or doing his thing back in Dayton, what was your escape?
Man, I have a lot. Just I don't know. To start, I would definitely say, I fell in love with lifting at the age of 12. I literally had a gym membership. I would go down to the End Zone gym on the south side and try to learn from the the professional bodybuilder that owned the gym, and that was fun. I fell in love with this. That's definitely one of the escapes. We have a couple of gyms here. I'm very fortunate to get to have access to those to train myself. I kind of like to squat here and there, and so obviously lifting, my little Airdyne bike as well. Got that here, and some other things like outside of training, because sometimes I think you need to do some of that just to kind of to do something else. To if it's your job, and you're always doing that, you might get a little burnt out. So some other things, music, whether it be trying to teach myself how to play, or just diving into old albums that take you back to when you were a kid. And that's been a big part of my life. And then here also just getting a glass of wine with friends, trying to learn a little bit more about wine and obviously about them, and just kind of hanging out, letting your hair down, chilling out. And then obviously I can't do it from here, but this is still kind of part of it. But traveling, that's bouncing around the nation, job after job. It's just been kind of getting to learn different regions, different areas, also meeting different people. Travel's been pretty cool, especially with a professional organization. You're traveling city to city. So I think once this is all over, hopefully get some time to myself and maybe expand my international travel. I haven't done as much as I would like to. Being an intern, I really didn't have the budget for that for so long. So international travel would definitely be something I look forward to when we're out of here.
Would really be squats around the world then.
Exactly.
Really squats around the world. You guys should search that hashtag if you don't understand it. But no, I thought that it was cool too. I think it was the other day. You got a keyboard in there.
Yeah. I ordered a keyboard. I remember I taught myself guitar when I was, I don't know, in 8th grade, and tried to teach myself piano when I was, I think, like a freshman in college. And it was just like, I thought I was going to have a lot more downtime here. And I was just like, yeah, I'll order a keyboard. And then like finally got to it. And, it's actually remarkable. I find, doing that or the guitar, I can't read the sheet music yet, but it keeps you sharp, whether you're memorizing it or whatever, the timing, the, syncing that together, it really, really keeps me sharp. So it's definitely something I like to kind of to still use.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Ed, it's great to see you, bro. I'm glad you're doing well. I'm fired up to see the Lake Show make this run, man, and rooting hard for you, brother. Just glad you're doing great and glad you could join us.
Appreciate that, man. Always great seeing you, and hopefully I'll get to see Richmond basketball against the Flyers this year.
I hope so, man. I really do. I really do. Well, listen, brother, cheers. I appreciate your time, and we'll be in touch.
All right, man.